G'day guys, Dane here from Clarkie's NRL column. Today I'm joined by Oliver from NRL, in my opinion, and we're going to be going over all 16 NRL coaches. We're going to be assessing how long of a contract they are currently signed to. We're going to be also talking about their win-loss ratio as of recent times. And then we're going to be discussing briefly as to how safe we consider each man's job past 2019. I'll hand over to you, Oliver, to say g'day quickly before we talk about the giveaway that you find yourself involved in by clicking onto this video.
Hope you're all well, guys, and let's get into talking about some coaches.
Awesome. All right, guys. So as I said, giveaway. Now, this clock here is just an example. I've got a large variety of clocks next to me, all different sort of teams, and you can win one just by watching this video. Just drop a like if you want to, and comment below which team you go for. Therefore, I know what team to send you. And yeah, afterwards, me and Oliver will pick a winner. I'll message you, get your address, and send it off. All you have to do is leave that comment. Our first coach is Anthony Seibold. I have a little collection of notes I prepared earlier, which will definitely help me through this video. So we've got Anthony Seibold, 63% win rate in 2018, reigning Dally M Coach of the Year. He has signed, at first, it was a 4-year deal from 2020 with the Broncos. However, now that's been extended to 5 years, as he'll also be there in 2019. How safe is Anthony Seibold, Oliver?
I think he's very safe. Obviously, I think a recurring theme that we might see in this video with coaches joining new clubs, I think they'll at least be safe the first season because they obviously need to be given an opportunity. And the thing is with Seibold as well, obviously on a big money contract, they're not just going to let that go to waste after one season. The club are also going to want to give Seibold one full, I guess, off season to bring the squad that he wants to Brisbane. So signing players that he maybe feels will fit in with his version of the Brisbane Broncos, because at the moment he's inheriting Wayne Bennett's Brisbane Broncos roster, and I think he will want to build his own team. I don't think he'll make many changes because the Broncos have obviously got, at least in the forward pack, a lot of young talent. So I think he'll be looking to utilise those players a lot. However, he has this season to sort of work out, okay, I might need to change this position here, maybe add a bit of depth here, or something. So I think they are going to give him a season to sort of put the pieces together for his Brisbane Broncos side.
Absolutely agree. Also, you factor in they did sign him to a 5-year deal, reigning Dally M Coach of the Year. It'd have to be a shock circumstance for him to be sacked. We move on to our next coach, Paul McGregor. Now, he's been with the St. George Illawarra Dragons since 2014. And he's incurred a 50% win-loss percentage since he's been there. Exactly 50%. He's currently only signed until the end of this season, Oliver. So, given 50% win-loss ratio, what are you thinking for Mary? Is he safe or is he not safe?
I think, like his win-loss record, he will be 50-50. For me, the Dragons this season won't get off to as good a start as they have over the past few years, because obviously the preseason training method where Mary's been getting the Dragons into, I guess, the fittest side to start the competition out each year. Teams are obviously working that out now, and they are taking measures. Obviously, we've seen the likes of Newcastle and Parramatta doing it with strenuous preseason training to sort of emulate what the Dragons have done. So I think there'll be a lot of teams sort of on their level at the start of the season this year. Look, I don't think they'll drop down significantly. I've still got them in my top 8. However, I don't have them doing anything too amazing. So, 50-50 for me. There's every chance that they could miss the 8 and he could leave. And he's only contracted to the end of this year as well. So if they did want to freshen things up and maybe bring in a new coach in to bring in fresh ideas, fresh players, I don't think he'd necessarily get the sack, but it might be more of a case of the club deciding not to renew his contract, unless obviously they win the comp or finish in the top 4 for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, I'm 50-50 on Paul McGregor, and I'm 50-50, the same as his win-loss. His time at the Dragons since 2014 has been realistically 50-50. There's been some good times for the Dragons, I suppose, finishing inside the 8. And there's been some bad times like last year where they slid from 1st to 8th. Personally, for me, if the slide that the Dragons have done the past couple of years where they start strong and just slowly work down that ladder, if that occurs again in 2019 and they do fall out of the top 8 as a result of that directly, then I believe he'll be sacked. Like you said, it may be time for them to bring in a new coach with some new ideas. Move on to our next coach now, Dean Pay. We can only go off 2018. He had a 33% win record with them last year, and he's only signed for 2019. I'm going to go ahead and say Dean Pay is not safe. He needs to have a pretty good year, or at least show some clear signs of improvement for the Bulldogs to renew him on any sort of long-term contract. If I'm the Doggies right now, if he gets a maybe 9th or 10th, but there was a clear improvement from last year, there's throughout the year, there is talk that, certain players may be interested in going to the Bulldogs, etc., etc. I think you re-sign him, but again, only short-term, 1 or 2 years. But, that's all what could happen. But what I'm predicting is not safe. What about you, Oliver? Have you got him safe, not safe?
I'd say he's not safe, but he's sort of more towards the 50-50. For me personally, I do have the Bulldogs improving in 2019, and a lot of people don't. They're one of the favourites for the Spoon. As a matter of fact, I think they might be the favourite. I haven't checked the odds lately, but I think they might be the favourite for the Spoon at the moment. However, I have them in 9th personally. Sort of similar to Anthony Seibold's situation. Dean Pay obviously inheriting a squad from Des Hasler, with the likes of the big money signing of Aaron Woods, Kieran Foran,
Greg Eastwood on $750K last
Greg
year.
Eastwood, who ended up playing New South Wales Cup. That was definitely not the doing of Dean Pay. It was the side that he inherited, and that's the side that he used for most of 2018, which ended up being a side that did not perform very well. However, when he made the changes, I guess with the squad that he had, with the extended squad that he had, when he made the changes that he wanted to make, for example, bringing in the likes of Lachlan Lewis, Reece Martin, for example, the club really performed well. And he's been able to have an off-season where he signed a couple of players that look really promising. The likes from the Panthers, as I brought up before, Christian Crichton and Corey Harawira are not absolute superstars, but they are solid signings that would definitely add to that Bulldog side. And they've also got room to improve. They're only young. Dylan Napa, without talking about what's been going on lately, obviously he's got a great resume and will bring a lot of experience to that Bulldogs roster. So for me, he's definitely not safe because the Bulldogs, majority of people do believe they won't play too well, and if they don't, I think it'll probably be time for him to leave. However, unsafe, but sort of pushing maybe near that 50-50 zone for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, he is pushing the 50-50 purely because it does take time to build a finals or a premiership winning team, and he realistically hasn't had a chance with Des leaving that club in shambles. Let's move on to a man who I'm sure we both agree is pretty safe after being re-signed until the end of the 2022 season. Since 2013, he has a 64% win-loss record and obviously has a couple minor premierships and, the premiership in 2013 and now 2018 to go along with that. Trent Robinson, for me, something's got to go horribly wrong for him to lose his job, right?
I think for the Roosters, even if they finish last, he'll still be safe somehow, and I don't think they will finish last. He's definitely got the backing of the playing group. We know that. We've heard players come out, since they've won the premiership as well, and say what a great coach he is. He has a great mind for the game as well. A lot of the players obviously respect him, so he's definitely not got any troubles with the playing group. It seems that things with, Nick Politis and the board are sort of okay at the moment. We know that, everything seems to be positive, I guess you could say, for Trent Robinson at the moment. We hear a lot now that, there's no more room for sort of long-term coaches in NRL. Teams are always going to chop and change. But I think in this instance, they could be wrong because Trent Robinson, obviously, with the backing of the playing group, it's the only club that he's ever been at. He's been able to make signings over the past few years that have fit his structure at the Roosters. It's a structure and a mentality that works. I don't know what more I can say about this man. He's definitely safe in 2019.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Safe as houses. Let's move on to the Rabbitohs. Wayne Bennett has come in now from 2015 to 2018, his second coming at the Brisbane Broncos. He had a 64% win-loss ratio, and he's currently signed on a 3-year deal until the end of the 2021 season. Something we did speak about whilst doing our research is we believe Wayne Bennett is safe for this entire 3-year deal. His record, his reputation, and what he's previously been able to achieve in the game, it's unrivaled in a lot of areas statistically. So the biggest question mark for us came when we're looking past this, past 2021 when he comes off contract. And for that, I'll hand over to you, Oliver, because there is a big question mark as to whether he'll retire or what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I think he might retire after 2021. I honestly don't know what more he can do within the game. Look, I think he'll definitely retire at the end of his contract if South Sydney win a premiership while he's there, because he's obviously accomplished something at that club as well. Let's not forget, I think he's still the current England coach. He might want to do something with them. So maybe when he does end up exiting the Rabbitohs, he still might be the England coach for a couple of years. Maybe he wants to bring a World Cup to them. Obviously, at the end of 2021, the World Cup is being hosted in England as well. And we've seen great stuff from the England squad. Just to digress a bit, obviously making the World Cup final and taking Australia to the limit in 2017, and beating New Zealand twice out of a best-of-3 series. So he's definitely got some quality players in that England squad as well. So for me as well, he might not retire from the game entirely after 2021, but I think he might give up full-time NRL coaching, maybe to focus more on that England squad, a squad that has tremendous talent, as well as the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And again, with Wayne Bennett, it's the exact same as Anthony Seibold. He's currently, I guess he's more as well inherited Michael Maguire's squad. It's just a squad that was really well put together, and Anthony Seibold was able to coach really well. So Wayne Bennett might, be given a season to adjust and maybe bring in some players that fit his regime a bit. Obviously, there's still the rumours around Tavita Pangai Jr. only signing a 1-year extension with the Broncos, maybe wanting to join Wayne Bennett at South Sydney as well. And by no way do I mean this will be a rebuild for the Rabbitohs. You won't have to make many changes. As for me, I've definitely got them challenging for the premiership in 2019. But as you said as well, he's probably safe for this contract. It'll just be a question of, does he retire after that? Does he maybe focus more on his England duties, or does he maybe re-sign to try and capture a premiership with South Sydney?
Yeah, I think if he certainly, in my opinion, if he is to win a premiership within that 3 years at the club, there's not much more for him left to prove. He's obviously getting quite on in his age. I think Wayne would retire and possibly focus on international footy, as you alluded to. Move on to the Parramatta Eels. Brad Arthur, since 2014 at the club, has a 45% win-loss, slightly less than half. However, the big catch here is this is his last year on contract. 2019, again, Brad Arthur's last year. 2020, no contract. For me, he's not safe at all. Any coach that wins the wooden spoon the year previous is under immense pressure. Certainly one thing he has going for him, and from all reports online and throughout 2018, despite, playing some horrible footy, the playing group still loves him and still trusts him, most importantly. Despite all that, I don't think Brad Arthur's safe. And it's certainly something we've spoken about on other podcasts. If they are to start poor again and be sitting around that 15, 16 mark, anywhere in the bottom 4 for me, if they're sitting there after round 10, it's much easier for the club to pay him out for the rest of this year and get in a fresh new coach. And typically in NRL history, even with the Panthers bringing in Cameron Ciraldo, replacing Anthony Griffin, who has over 100 NRL games coached, replacing him with someone yet to coach one, they still won their next couple games because typically in history, a change of coach inspires the players a little bit and gets, some fresh new ideas, gets the players remotivated, I suppose you could say. So it's much easier for the board to do that. It's much easier to say goodbye, Brad, hello, whoever, as opposed to, Brad, here's a 4-year deal. Go and sack 20 players like Ricky Stuart did for us in 2013 and rebuild your squad. Because, as we said, he has been there since 2014, so he's had the opportunity to build his team. Do you agree? Not safe, Brad Arthur?
I definitely do agree that he's not safe. However, I think at the start of the season, this is more just going off a feeling, and it's the crazy, wacky world of rugby league we live in. Nothing's really predictable. I think maybe in the first few rounds, we might be surprised by a couple of Parramatta wins. By that, I mean they'll win like 2 in 5 or something. Just they might start out a bit hot. However, I think I've still got them finishing second last on the ladder, followed only by Manly, who I also think might get off to a little bit of a hot start with their new coaching. And Parramatta's got the squad. Obviously, we've seen to finish in the top 4. So it's just about the cohesion and consistency with Parramatta in 2019. However, I don't personally think they'll find that straight away. As I said, I've got them finishing 15th. So I don't think Brad Arthur will be sacked necessarily because of a poor start to the season. I think they'll start okay, and it might save his season, I guess, because I think if then towards the end of the season Parramatta do drop off and they finish where I'm predicting in 15th, it might be more of a case of the club just deciding not to renew his contract as opposed to sacking him outright.
Yeah, that certainly holds a lot of validity. Also, we'll move over the ditch now to New Zealand. Stephen Kearney, since 2017 at the New Zealand Warriors, he has a 45% win rate. For me, he's not safe. Leaning towards the 50-50 area because he is signed. I mean, he is only signed until the end of 2019. I think that, like you said at the start, there will be some reoccurring themes through this video. But, it's straight facts and statistics. Realistically, if a coach is only signed until the end of this year, as you said before with Brad Arthur, it's a lot easier to say goodbye, we're not renewing your contract, as opposed to a situation where the Manly Sea Eagles now find themselves where they're paying for 2 head coaches because one didn't re-sign and they didn't want to sack him and pay him out a huge lump sum. So yeah, Stephen Kearney, I've got him not safe. What have you got for him, Oliver?
I've more got him towards the 50-50.
Okay.
And look, it's, I guess, in every aspect of the New Zealand Warriors, they are inconsistent, unpredictable. That's why I've got Stephen Kearney 50-50. They could finish last. They could finish well in the top 8. We really don't know. It's because of the style of football they play as well. Very free-flowing football, very much open to errors. However, if it pays off, it usually leads to try-scoring opportunities as well. We know this about the Warriors. So it's more 50-50 for me. It more depends on how the team goes on the field. Look, I've got the Warriors finishing 11th, and I do keep bringing up my predictions because I think that sort of, involves how a coach is going to be, I guess, treated that season, whether or not they let go. So I think if he finishes there, he might be safe just because it's not too far down. And I think the Warriors might be expecting a bit of a drop-off just because Sean Johnson is leaving. I know we can't just keep counting on one player, which as well, they've got uncapped players coming in to that halfback role possibly. But they've got players that, I've got a bit of hype around them. Adam Kieran, obviously coming from Penrith, is the front runner to fill in that halfback role. And he scored over 200 points in ISP last year. I think it was for the Panthers I saw. And Chanel Tavita-Harris, I think, was in 2017 the Holden Cup Player of the Year. I just wanted to get that in there because that's also information I didn't personally know about those two before. Yeah. So, possibly that one of those two could do really well. Maybe help the Warriors, I guess, make a push for the finals. Or, as I said, very unpredictable. They could finish higher up on the ladder. They could finish lower. I've got them sort of midway point in 11th. I think he'll be safe. I think maybe if they finish 13th or below, I'm going to say he'll probably be sacked. Not sacked, sorry. He'll be let go at the end of the season just so they can refresh and get a new coach in with fresh ideas, bring in some new talent to the squad. Yeah. But I think he's 50-50 for me, generally safe.
Just at the end there, you made a really big point. You used the term new coach, fresh members to the squad. would certainly make sense if they were looking to take that approach to sign an Australian coach to maybe attract some, talent outside of New Zealand. We'll move on to the West Tigers, who have signed Premiership winning coach Michael Maguire until the end of the 2021 season. Now, he hasn't been coaching recently, but as of, he obviously has been coaching internationally, has not been coaching NRL last year. But from 2012 to 2017, he had a 56% win rate with the South Sydney Rabbitohs and obviously won a premiership there. For me, Madge is pretty safe. I think the Tigers are at the stage now with Benji and Robbie Farah retiring, where they're looking to draw from that and build club culture. From what we can understand with the entire Ivan Cleary situation and why the Tigers were so upset there is they're looking for a long-term coach. They signed Ivan, I believe, to a long-term deal. They wanted Ivan to be that man. It turns out he wasn't to be that man. Use of the word man a lot, but now they have that man in Madge Maguire at the club. I think they'd have to have a disastrous season or two before they start looking to sack Madge, which I don't see occurring. I think they're a genuine dark horse this year under his guidance.
Yeah, as you said as well, the club looking for a long-term coach. They're still, I guess, in a sense, looking for a replacement for Tim Sheens, who obviously won them a premiership in 2005, was a pretty long-term coach at the club, had a lot of experience. That's what they're looking for, and I think they might have it here in Michael Maguire, obviously a premiership winning coach in his own right, as Tim Sheens was obviously with Canberra when he came in to the Tigers in the early 2000s. So, yeah, I think they're still sort of realistically looking for a replacement to Tim Sheens, who had a pretty good run at the Tigers. You know, they were sort of not consistently, but, you know, more than not, they were finishing in the top 8 as well. And look, personally, I don't have the Tigers in the top 8 this year. I know some people do. I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. They'll be in the hunt definitely with Michael Maguire. And, you know, as I said earlier on as well, a recurring theme is that if a coach is new to a club this season, they're probably safe. And I think that's the exact same here with Michael Maguire as well. Look, I'd have to say that I'd probably have to finish dead last with a very poor record for him to be sacked this year. I'm not saying it's impossible that he'll be sacked, but I'm saying that they'd have to play pretty damn poor, and I think poorer than, you know, what that squad is capable of. So I think he's safe.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We'll move on to the Sharks now, and this is a bit of a tough one. Obviously, we don't know officially who their head coach is at this stage. Now, it's interim coach for the moment, John Morris, so he's the man we will talk about. We have no official record to go off, and we have no official contract to go off, so we don't know how long he is to be signed for. We can only assume, being interim, it covers the 2019 season only. And with no official NRL record to go off, I suppose the next thing we do is look back to other competitions, younger competitions in particular. And we don't have official numbers on them, but we know in 2017 with the NYC Sharks team, he did win the premiership in that competition. So there is some ability there. But as for safe, I'm going to say no. No matter who they put there at the Sharks at the moment, it's going to be short term until they figure it out. And I think no matter which coach they put there, they're not safe at the Sharks at the moment, as it's a club now that finds itself in a rebuild phase. Luke Lewis is retired. Gallen will retire after last year. Maybe, likely, I suppose we can say. Shane Flanagan, your long-time coach for the last couple seasons, has now been deregistered. So there's a lot of question marks at the Sharks at the moment. And, I think they could name Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, who's obviously a Sharks fan. He could be their head coach, and even he would not be safe with the current situations surrounding that club.
I'm going to agree with you that John Morris isn't safe, obviously, because he is an interim coach at the moment. But look, if they come out tomorrow and announce a new coach, at least for this season, I think they'll at least be safe for the year, purely because of the on-field talent that the Cronulla Sharks still possess at the moment.
And depth also.
Yeah, and as you said, obviously they are losing a couple of key players. They've lost Luke Lewis. Paul Gallen's probably going to retire at the end of the year. However, they've still got a great on-field squad. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Cronulla will miss the top 8 because they haven't, got sponsors, or because Shane Flanagan's been deregistered." Do you really think, honestly, on the field, that is going to affect them for 26 weeks? Like, I honestly cannot see that impacting the club so much that they are going to perform poor on the field for that long. Maybe they'll start off a bit weak, but they started off a bit weak in 2018 as well.
And I've got to cut in here. They started off fairly weak in 2015 when they won the premiership. 2016, my bad. Sorry, 2015 was Cowboys. My bad. Yeah, 2016, they started very slow. Then they went and won those 15 in a row. Sorry, but I had to interject there, given that's the best year in club history.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And, obviously last year they started off poor. So I definitely see the Sharks maybe starting off poor for maybe 5 weeks max. And then I think we see the on-field talent sort of take over. They've got Matt Moylan, who's going back to fullback, probably where, he's best suited to. You've got Chad Townsend, who obviously not a star player, but when you put him with a star player of that caliber, he definitely complements them very well. Let's talk about his halves partner, Sean Johnson, coming into the squad. A great structure, a great lineup for him to be coming into. That's going to really work well for Cronulla. Look, we've also got...
Speaking of Chad Townsend, he just messaged me then. Sweet man, give me 20 minutes and he's going to jump on and do a Q&A. Isn't that weird? You literally just said his name and he messages me.
And we're talking about Cronulla as well. There's 15 other teams, but he must know, I don't know, telepath. That just shows how great Chad Townsend is in that squad as well. Obviously, I think it's Josh Morris going to Cronulla as well. A lot of experience. You got Josh Dugan, former Australian player, I'm pretty sure. Yep. Definitely played Origin. Look, I could go on, but you obviously know the players that are at the Sharks. So I think definitely in the end, the on-field talent will, override these off-field issues that the Cronulla Sharks have been having as well. And I've got them finishing 5th. So I originally had them in my top 4, but when all the off-season stuff started happening, I thought, okay, it's going to impact them a little bit, but not too much. So I'll pop them down to 5th. But as I said, they're going to have a really good season on the field. So I think whoever is brought in as coach for at least the 2019 season is safe for the 2019 season. But we'll have to see.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I believe I did get a little carried away and say no matter who joins, they're not safe. I just need to rephrase that. Sorry. I was referring to a longer-term deal. But like you said, 2019, they should be safe. But I don't believe anyone would be safe for a long-term deal given what the club is going through at the moment. Move on to a man returning home. Des Hasler is back at Manly this year. We both had him as safe before we started the show. From 2012 to 2017, he had a 57% win rate. And during his time at the Bulldogs after that, he had a 59% win rate, which is important to mention because he didn't have the strongest side at the Bulldogs. He had a much stronger side at Manly. And those win-loss percentages are very similar, which could be a good sign for Manly as to what's come. If he can, coach at a very similar standard, dependent on which team he has with him, I think that's a pretty good sign for Manly because even if you're a Manly fan, you'd have to admit your depth and certainly 14 to 17 bench players is a little bit concerning. He is signed until the end of the 2021 season, and he is a scary man. That photo, he looks, as we said before, Des looks like the sort of guy, if you rocked up the training 5 minutes late, he would just walk over and just blast you in front of everyone. Yeah. He just looks scary. And more on that, I was asking a Manly Seagulls player if it would be okay for me to pop in to a preseason training. But I do know from my sources that Manly, Des is very strict as to who can come to training and whatnot at this time of the year. And his first reply was, nah, bro, Des is so strict. And he was almost scared also. So, scary man, but a safe man. I'm sure we both agree.
Yeah, he's definitely safe this year. I just want to, historically, especially over the past couple of years, a lot of people have given Des Hasler flack saying that he's a crap coach, whatever. You know, obviously, it's his fault that the Bulldogs finished. You know, I don't know where they finished in 2017, ended up finishing, but, you know, obviously, I think it was outside the 8. Had a poor finish to 2016 as well. I mean, people are saying he's a crap coach, whatever. It was more off-field and those contracts he was signing players to as well that probably more affected his time at the Bulldogs. And this is a man who, when he was at Manly, inherited a club that was, you know, off the back of being the Northern Eagles, had to sort of refine their feet. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know this off my head. I think he might not have missed the finals once with Manly. Maybe in the first couple of seasons, I don't know. But I definitely know that he took Manly to the finals consecutively for probably at least 10 years, won a couple of premierships with them. Hey, let's look at his time at the Bulldogs. 2012, made the grand final. Okay, didn't win it. Made the grand final in 2014. 2013, I'd still say they made the finals. 15 they did, 16 they did. I mean, we're talking about like one and a half bad years here in what has otherwise been an amazing coaching career for Des Hasler. Let's not rule him out yet. Look, I've still got Manly finishing last in 2019, but it's coming back to that same thing as well. A new coach being brought into the club. They can't even afford to get rid of Des Hasler this year. I think he's probably the safest coach in the NRL at the moment, just because they cannot afford to get rid of Des Hasler after this year as well, just because of financial restrictions. As well.
On that, their only other option is to give Trent a call and say, Trent, get off the couch. You're coaching again, which we know is highly unlikely to occur. You're certainly onto something in terms of him being safe for that respect. But I also want to touch on briefly before you continue, not only his success as a coach, but his influence. We had Watmow, we had the Stuart brothers, we had Foreign, we didn't have DCE, obviously that's a story for another day, but a lot of players there at Manly were on reduced contracts, despite being offered much more elsewhere, because they wanted to play together in that team. They wanted to play under Des Hasler and the culture he built at that team. So I just thought I'd throw that in there real quick.
Yeah, and look, another thing as well, exactly like Seibold, exactly like Bennett, there's obviously financial restrictions. He, this season, definitely cannot go and sign players that he feels fits into a Des Hasler squad. He is still very much inheriting Trent Barrett's Manly Seagulls, which is a very weird sentence to say that Des Hasler is inheriting someone else's Manly Seagulls, because we obviously know the influence he's had there over the years. But, you know, definitely they're at least going to give him a couple of years to sign some players when the financial restrictions are over. He should still be at the club to make those signings. And then once that happens, you know, maybe we'll see a bit of resurgence of someone like, you know, Tom Trbojevic and Jake Trbojevic becoming the new Stuart brothers, and might bring in, you know, another big forward to fill that Watmow role, and, you know, get some backs like, you know, to be sort of like the Wolfman Williams and Steve Maddai as well, and really build his Manly Warringah Seagulls.
Yeah, certainly we know he's capable of doing that in the past also. So we'll move on from Des with the word safe. We'll move to probably the safest coach in the NRL. A man we don't really need to talk about too much. 68% win rate since 2003, which is insane. And recently re-signed until the end of the 2021 season last year. A man who's been to the grand final the last 3 years in a row, I believe. Roosters beat the Cowboys, Sharks the year before. Yep, the last 3 years.
Yep.
Oliver, just give me one word. Safe.
He's safe. I mean, come on.
There we go. Safe. As we move on to the Cowboys, Paul Green, since 2014, he has a 57% win rate with the club, and he is signed until the end of the 2021 season. Talk to me, Oliver. Is Paul Green safe, or is he not safe?
I think he's safe, but he's a bit close to that 50-50 range. You know, I guess what I was saying with Stephen Kearney as well, he was sort of unsafe, but pushing that 50-50 zone, I think it was. Well, Paul Green's on the other side. He's more safe, but maybe he's just a little bit above that 50-50 zone. Only because, personally for me, I still think it's a very big rebuilding year for the Cowboys. I know a lot of people disagree, but I have got them outside of my 8 in 2019. But I don't think he will get sacked for that, even though a lot of people may think so, because obviously it's a rebuild. They're probably going to give him a season with these new players that he signed, i.e. the likes of Josh Maguire and Ben Barber, just as an example, to really build some cohesion in that squad. Personally, for me, I think their downfall mainly will be not only the talent of other squads, but maybe some inconsistency. We've heard Tamari Martin come out publicly as well and say, look, at the moment, I'm not backing this halves partnership between me and Michael Morgan, which is a pretty stupid thing for him to come out and say, because Michael Morgan's not the player going to be dropped from that halves partnership if it's not working out. However, we've heard that. So maybe the main thing for me with the Cowboys in 2019 might be some cohesion, might be working out some chemistry, and individual players, how their form is. Like Ben Barber obviously had a great year in the Super League in 2018. However, he's back in the NRL. He might have to find his feet a bit. So personally, for me, I think he is probably safe, even if they do finish a bit lower on the ladder, just because they are going to, the board will understand that he needs a season to sort of get these players playing as a brotherhood, I guess you could say, as and build some real cohesion.
Yeah, certainly agree. I think he's safe due to the fact he has the players' support and he has the board's trust. I mean, I believe I'm correct in saying it was 2018. They had the poor start to the year, and there was speculation he was set to be sacked. Fast forward a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two, he re-signs until the end of the 2021 season. So for me, obviously he has the board's trust and he has made some very good signings. He will be safe for me. We'll move on to the ACT. Ricky Stuart. Since 2014, he has a 46% win rate with that club. And he's signed for 1 year past this season. He is signed until the end of the 2020 season. I know you've spoken on this on a live stream we did on Instagram. But Ricky Stuart, not safe. Tell me why you have Ricky as not safe, I suppose.
I'll correct you a little bit there. The most unsafe, as in I think it almost 100% he's getting sacked this year for me, just because I don't think Canberra will have a very good 2019. I've got them finishing 14th. Also, I said earlier on in the video, I think Parramatta and Manly will probably start out hot, and by hot I mean they'll get a couple of games under their belt in the first few rounds, and might make people think, okay, they're doing all right. I don't think Canberra will win a game. I've just got that feeling, and I think, look, once it hits round 10, if Canberra are on the bottom of the ladder or near that, the board are just going to say, Ricky, look, you're out. There's nothing more we can do. He has brought in a couple of players over the past few years from England, and only one of them stood out, which, of course, is Josh Hodgson. Some young players there at Canberra as well. As I said before, they have a young squad that is going to be experimented with in 2019. However, I don't think Sticky will be the one experimenting with them. I don't. He will have a long tenure in 2019, especially if Canberra do get off to that poor start that I was alluding to. So definitely not safe for me.
I agree also. I've got Ricky Stuart as not safe. Now, I understand he's a club legend. I understand he grew up in the local area. I understand he was a great player for the club and a great servant of the club. I understand all that, but there's only so many times. I think he hasn't made the finals since 2016, I believe. Yeah. That'd be 3 years in a row, 3 disappointing years. As the club, do you really want a fourth, or do you want to try to mix things up? I think you want to freshen things up there. So I think he is under a lot of pressure to perform, and he is not safe. We'll move to the Newcastle Knights. Now, this is a very interesting one because you can almost argue great points for both sides. You can argue Nathan Brown being not safe, and you can argue him being safe for the absolute superb rebuild he has done at the Knights. We'll go over some facts. So he joined the club in 2016. He has a 21% win-loss ratio there. Pretty low, by far the lowest in the NRL. But one prominent theme of this video has been inheriting a club. And let's be honest, he inherited a club in shambles. And as for his contract, well, he was believed to be signing a 5-year, I believe, contract extension. That proved to be fake, as it came out the Knights have signed him on a performance-based contract. So there's no official end date on this contract at this stage. It's completely performance-based, which means the Knights can officially sack or move him on at any stage without any financial repercussions. For that reason, I'm going to lead towards him not being safe. I think the Knights are just that keen for success now. They've been in the trenches for that long. I think if they are to start slow, and they are looking like it's going to be a very poor season, I don't think the Knights care about how he rebuilt the club. It's a merciless sport. I think they say, goodbye, Brownie. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the rebuild. And they bring in someone else. But despite all that, I'm not opposed to the fact if someone was to argue he is safe, the club will show some loyalty given he rebuilt them. So whilst I am sitting on the side of the fence of not safe, I do understand how you can quite easily argue he is safe. I guess that's whether you look at rugby league as a sport and you would say he's safe because loyalty is very important, or you recognise it as a business where it can be merciless. You know, it's business at the end of the day. Business is business. What do you think for Brownie? Is he safe or is he not safe?
Well, going off my predictions for 2019, I've got Newcastle in the top 8 and 6th, so that would suggest that he is safe. And look, if they finish in the top 8, I think he's definitely safe. Mm-hmm. However, before a ball is kicked, you know, looking towards the next season, I'm exactly 50-50 purely because of this performance-based contract as well. That definitely heavily impacts that. 50-50, not, you know, safe leaning towards 50-50, not unsafe leaning towards 50-50, smack bang in the middle, 50-50. If he performs well, gets the Knights into the top 8, I think they'll probably upgrade his contract to a proper NRL contract with an end date in sight. If, well, not necessarily if they miss the top 8, he still might be safe, but if they finish low on the ladder, I think, as you said, it will be bye-bye Brownie, and they'll bring someone in without having to pay out a hefty contract. So, look, it can go one or two ways purely on how the Knights perform in 2019. But as I said, I've got the Knights finishing in the top 8 in 2019. The rebuild is complete. So, I'm personally, probably, I guess I would have to lean more towards safe.
Okay, so that is probably the first one we have disagreed on. But like I said, you can argue both sides in this case. As I believe it's the first time in NRL history a coach has been on a performance-based contract. I don't imagine it becoming something too popular because it's all about financial security these days, and obviously with your future having no security at all, he could wake up tomorrow and find out via Twitter or Instagram that he's been sacked. It's certainly tough, but I do commend you, Brownie, for signing that contract. It shows you've got a lot of confidence in the team, and wish you all the best. But you guys already know we saved the best for last. Best team on earth, quite simply, mighty Gold Coast Titans. Now, in 2018 when Garth Brennan took the reins, he had a 33% win rate for the club. And he was recently signed on a 2-year extension with the option for a third. I'm not able to ascertain whether that option is in his favour or the club's favour, but I could almost confidently tell you it'd be in the club's favour, given we didn't finish top 8 and they haven't seen too much out of Garth yet. Regardless, how do you have our mighty coach, Oliver? Have you got him safe or unsafe for the 2019 season?
I've probably got him one of the safest coaches in the NRL. And this isn't just going off my prediction for the Titans to finish 8th. I know that's a bit of a controversial one. However, let's just look behind the scenes as well. The club is obviously backing Brennan by bringing in a coaching staff full of legends such as Mal Meninga and Trevor Gilmeister. Yep. I think it's also the former New Zealand Kiwis assistant coach they've brought in as well, doing something within the club there. Look, he's got a great team behind him now. The board's still behind him. They understand this is a rebuilding stage. And, obviously I brought up that word before. You need something fresh, something new along with a rebuild. And what better than a coach that's come in from, the New South Wales Cup, a coach that's had success in the New South Wales Cup and is fresh to the NRL. Obviously, we've seen him make some signings in the off-season as well, bringing great depth to the club. Even if the Titans don't finish in the top 8, which, look, popular belief is they won't, I think Titans are, look, and personally I don't agree with this. Maybe a little bit of bias is creeping in. I don't personally think so, but maybe, look, the Titans are one of the favourites last time I checked to win the Wooden Spoon, as well as the Bulldogs, which I personally don't think is too true. I think probably the most popular belief would be around probably 10th, 11th, 12th for the Titans, which I still think will keep him safe for this year. They'd have to finish very bad, as in maybe 15th or 16th.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I'm certainly hoping Garth is at our club for a while. As you said, the word bias, every time we seem to talk about our team, we do cop that in the comments a little bit. So hopefully, we weren't too biased there. But yeah, love you, Garth. Great coach, and hopefully you are safe. I'll say safe. And I will remind everyone, the giveaway, it's only something little, guys. But look, we'll get it delivered to you completely free of charge, completely free to enter. All you got to do is just leave a comment who you support. And if you're still here, maybe some recommendations on improvements and some future videos you'd like to see. We always want to improve, make good content for you guys. And, realistically, looking across social media, besides the NRL.com podcast, there's not, and maybe fifth and last, which is, from my understanding, a large Twitter podcast, there's not too much popular video NRL content around.
I think Fox League started one up as well in 2018.
Even saying that, they're both large companies. There's not many individual run from home podcasts with your two average punters that love the NRL just as much as you do. So if you have made it this far, we do really appreciate it. And we hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure, guys, I say this at the end of every video, go to NRL In My Opinion on Instagram, follow Oliver there, and head to his Facebook page. Again, NRL In My Opinion, and drop a big thumbs up there. I'm Dane from Clarkie's NRL column. You can see all my stuff below. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'll hand over to you, Oliver, to say goodbye to our viewers at home.
Yeah, as Clarkie said, Facebook, Instagram, NRL In My Opinion. Hit like, follow. See you guys later.